think at the heart of it, all men desire to have a classy woman. They at least want to think to themselves that they are with a classy woman, because the byproduct of that means that they are a classy guy, which class, it denotes status, it denotes quality, it denotes value. So being a woman of class is going to be naturally attractive to most men, but especially to a high quality man. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you seven ways to be a classy woman that men secretly love. 7 secret techniques that you can use right now. The first classy move that men love is not mentioning it when he makes a mistake. Now, people are flawed. Men in particular will often make mistakes. Even the best of us will make mistakes occasionally. Now, the key is, one thing that can make him fall under your spell is when he makes little mistakes, not to mention it, not even to make a joke out of it, but just to smile and kind of brush it off, almost like you didn't see it, even though he probably knows that you saw it. So let's say, for example, he accidentally missed the turnoff for some place that you were going to. Instead of saying like, oh, you missed the turnoff, it was right there, just be like smiling at him and he'll probably know that he missed it. And if he doesn't miss it, you say, oh, are we still going to the place? But it's not saying like, oh, you missed it. And let's say another example is he drops something on the ground, he spills something, he accidentally trips and stumbles. Is just smiling and continuing on your way, continuing on your conversation. Now, what this does is this makes him subtly feel like, for one, his emotional self is safe with you, that you're not going to instantly criticize him or make a joke or jab at him whenever he makes a mistake. Number 2 is it's going to make him want to be a better man, because he's going to feel like, he made a mistake. He noticed that he knows that you know that he made a mistake. And now he's going to want to improve because he feels like he's not being criticized for it. It's going to make him feel like he wants your attention. He wants your validation. He wants your approval that much more, because now it has more weight. Now it feels like you're not just this woman who's constantly pointing out the negative, but you're a woman who can see it, but isn't going to constantly hold it over his head. So it's a very powerful move. The last thing I want to say with that is, when he makes big mistakes, of course you can mention that. Of course you can have discussions about that. Big things that affect you, that impacted you in a negative way. But in general, if you can let more of the subtle things slide through, that's going to be very powerful for him. Number 2 is the warm thank you. Whenever a man does something kind to you, does something nice, even as simple as opening the door, or he buys you dinner, or he, puts your coat on, picked you up, whatever it might be, to just smile and say the warm thank you. Something like, thank you. Not having to justify it, not saying like, I'll get you the next time, or, you don't need to do that for me, or wow, like being surprised about it, like, wow, that's impressive. Like, I'm not used to that. Like, guys don't usually do these kind of things for me. It's just smiling, thank you, as if that's normal for you. It's just the usual. You'll always receive great quality treatment from men, especially quality men. And you're gracious when you do. You're thankful when you do. So it's fully receiving it, but also sharing back the warmth and the light to him, which is going to make him want to do those things much more for you and feel really great when he does. The third secret is not talking bad about other women when you're with him. So if you're talking bad about a girlfriend or some woman who was rude to you even, or someone in your family, or somebody who is in your social circle together. So for example, gossiping, or maybe somebody, especially the worst would be talking about a woman you're jealous of, that you feel he might have an interest in, a rival. When you talk bad about them, all you're really doing is revealing your own insecurity, and you are showing that you're willing to play dirty. And if you're doing it against this woman, who's to say you wouldn't be talking bad about him? You wouldn't be actually the toxic one yourself, because usually the ones who are the most criticizing other women and spreading the most drama are actually the most toxic ones themselves. And they're the ones that are causing a lot of the issues that they're later complaining about and blaming it on the other people. You'll see this a lot on reality shows such as The Bachelor, or, so many of these crappy reality shows that are out there, trashy ones. But you'll see that often the ones that are causing the most issues are then the ones who are also complaining about other women the most, and other blah, blah, blah. So all you're doing is putting yourself usually in a bad light. A classy woman doesn't do that. A classy woman will even say, what you like about that person. So, yeah, she says nice things sometimes, and he may even know that you're not saying a lot. But by you not saying, you actually are speaking a lot. You're speaking a lot about what's actually the real situation with her, but you're also speaking a lot to yourself that you are a classy woman who doesn't really need to, you know, be jealous, criticize, be insecure, or just be getting into the mud about other people, about other women. So it's a very powerful technique as well. Number 4 is grabbing his arm while you're walking. So while you're walking outside, when you're going between your car and a restaurant or on a trek somewhere, not on a hike, but just walking around. It's a powerful, classy move to actually grab his arm and hold his arm because it shows, for one, that you're trusting his protection. You're coming under his leadership, so to speak, his bubble of authority, and you are feeling comfortable with that. You're feeling comfortable in his energy. You're feeling safe in his energy, which is um, it's very complimenting to a man when you do that because you're showing him you trust him. You're showing him that you see him as a strong man. You see him as a man who's worth following his guidance, his leadership, his protection. And it's a classy move because a classy woman isn't this kind of woman that feels like I need to just, I have my own space and I'm independent and I don't need you. And, and it's also this emotional and physical distance that you create when you're never like doing that, holding his hand, grabbing onto his arm, showing physical affection. Because it's again showing that you're keeping him at a sort of an arm's length, so to speak. And it's something especially powerful about grabbing his arm, which is like you're almost in a way you're kind of admiring his arm too. It's like you're admiring his biceps or his muscles in his arm, but you're like kind of holding him, and it's more close than just like holding hands or even linking arms. So it's a very powerful, classy, feminine move that can make a man feel this sense of like, oh, like this is my woman. Like I can see this. I can get used to this. And doing life with this kind of woman. Number 5 is saying his name often. So using his name in conversation or saying, hey Fred, can you come over here? Or you're such a kind man, Fred. Or you're such an honorable man, Jack. I think that might even be a quote from Titanic. But saying his name, for one, everybody likes to hear their name. So this doesn't just apply to men specifically, but there's something classy about saying a man's name rather than saying, hey, you, or hey, guy, or why don't you come over here? I mean, you would say something like that. But when you say his name, it's a little bit more formal, which is kind of nice because it shows that you're not treating him like just this kind of like low value man, like a plumber or something. It's like you're more respecting him. You don't have to use his title if he has one, like, hey, doctor, Dr. Fred, can you come over here, please? Or Dr. Fred, so great to see you. You can, but I don't think you need to take it to that extent. Just use his name more often rather than not using it and just saying hey or saying guy or saying friend or whatever else you might typically like to say. Um, it creates this air of classiness around you and more sophistication. And of course, as you get to know him more, you don't have to use it. And you can start using pet names even and stuff that you might create together. But using his name often, especially in the beginning, can be very classy and it can be seductive in a sense. Number 6 is related to a point I mentioned earlier, but I want to go a little deeper with it, which is not bad mouthing your parents or your exes. Now, this is something as you get to know someone, some people do this right away on a date, which I don't necessarily recommend. They're talking about their exes. They're talking about even their relationship with their parents. But even worse than that, they are criticizing their parents, or they're bad mouthing their parents or bad mouthing their exes, like, oh yes, like my mom is such a bitch, or my dad was never really there for us, and he was kind of an asshole. He left us, or they divorced, and they were always fighting, blah blah blah. Again, it's not necessarily putting you in a great light because those are people you are related to. And yeah, you might have horrible relationships with your parents, but you don't necessarily need to bring that up early on in a relationship with him. You can just casually mention, like, you know, it was, it was a childhood. You could say something like that. Like it was an experience, but you don't need to go into all the details on how traumatic it was and all that. Of course, you can go on into that later on, but in the beginning, you want to be a little more classy and keep it more of you're honoring your parents. And that's actually a biblical principle to honor your parents. It's one of the 10 Commandments. So keeping and honoring energy towards your parents is actually you honoring yourself because you're related to them, and it allows him to honor you because now he's seeing that that's how you value your close relationships. Um, Even if they weren't great to you, you still have a classiness and a forgiveness towards them, and recognizing that most people are human, they make mistakes, and that you're going to try to focus on the positive with people and with him. And that transfers also over to the other topic I mentioned, which is exes. And you might have had horrible exes, and they cheated on you, or they were whatever, they were not meeting your needs, they were horrible. And so you don't necessarily need to bring all that up, and you can just also say what were the good qualities. You can say, yeah, it didn't work out, we were two different people, it didn't align. And if he asks you more details, of course you can go into more details, but try to avoid lingering there and avoid then getting into bashing, like, yeah, he totally broke my trust, and he was doing this and doing that, and he was abusive and blah blah blah. And because it's also showing him in a way, if you were attracting that behavior from other people, like, what is it about you that would attracted a partner like that? What was it inside of you that attracted or was attracted to that kind of man? So you want to make sure, of course, you were maybe a different person back then, and you've evolved now, or you're evolving now. So, but recognize the good in the situation, keep it classy. You don't have to go into too much details. Just say, yeah, it didn't work out, it wasn't great. And you don't have to go into the whole bad mouthing session. And lastly, number 7 is waiting for sex. It's a very classy move that men actually secretly love because it shows that if you're not giving it away on the first date or so quickly, that most likely you haven't given it away to him. You're not like giving it away to other men as well, meaning that what is scarce is valuable. So if you're giving your sex, your most intimate parts of your body to other men very quickly, it's not a very valuable asset, is it? It's something that can easily be had. It's the reason why gold and diamonds are more valuable than rocks and dirt. It's because rocks and dirt is everywhere, and it can be easily had by anybody. So it has pretty much no value. So you can become the diamond by keeping your most intimate parts of yourself, and include your heart, and include your heart, your body, your soul. That has to be earned in a sense. That is something that is given to a very select few of men in your life who have shown that they are worthy of that for you. And so by waiting for it, you are showing him that you're valuable. And then also if you finally do get to that place in your relationship, ideally after you're in an exclusive relationship, partnership at least, then that is now so much more valuable to him. And correlated to that, it means you are so much more valuable to him. So it's something that may not necessarily be easy, especially in our cultures, constantly pressuring, sex is easy, sex is just do it, be a liberated, independent woman, have sex with every man you can, express your sexuality, claim your desires, and it's like, well, in that process, you're devaluing yourself. And so that's the paradox of it. So you have to fight a lot of cultural programming in order to be this classy woman. Because let's say the general culture, the matrix, if you might say, does not want you to be a classy woman. It wants you to be a woman who is single, dependent on the system, not really empowered, thinking you're empowered, but not really empowered because you're basically just doing what they're telling you to do, and what they've designed so that you can actually not have great relationships and not have a great family, reproduce, have children. Like, there's a whole nother discussion about this of things that we're seeing in society with the rapidly declining population and whatnot, that there's a design behind that. And it starts with breaking relationships between men and women. So this is a big part of it. So the hookup culture, casual sex, that's a whole nother conversation. But that's just something a classy woman can do that men will secretly love. He will secretly value and see you as a long-term potential, and especially even wife material as well. So those are some of the 7 powerful secrets to being a classy woman that men love. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What traits do you feel makes a woman classy? Maybe even what traits do you feel makes a man classy? Or has there been anything that somebody has complimented you on for being classy before? There's always great discussions in the comments, so much wisdom in this community. I'd love to get your thoughts on here and see the discussion that comes from that below. So much love, take care, and I'll talk to you again very soon.